What's up guys, my name's Brandon and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss even more iOS 17.3 Beta 1 features, along with an update on iOS 17.2. We're going to talk about an update on the iMessage on Android dilemma, the strange reason why GM is ditching CarPlay, another crazy AirTag story, and more. And as always, if you want to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and also check out the Apple Den newsletter. Alright, so let's start with iOS 17.3 Beta 1. So if you are currently beta testing, you are likely on this update, but if you're still on iOS 17.2, we're going to talk about that here in a moment. But the first thing I want to talk about with iOS 17.3 that I did not discuss in my What's New video, so if you want to see a lot of details about the stolen device protection feature, go back and watch my What's New video. It's linked down below and up in the cards above. But there is one feature that I missed in my What's New video, and it's actually a pretty big feature. So as you know, as I talked about in that video, collaborative playlists are back in iOS 17.3 Beta 1. So these were pushed from iOS 17.2 for some reason, and it's probably because of the feature that's included here with 17.3. So if we go into one of our collaborative playlists, which this one right here, House Party, is a collab playlist, and you'll see up in the top right, we do have those two people there where we can invite people or, approve collaborators, all of that. Now, the new feature here is if we actually go to play one of these songs, so we're just going to play this first song, and if we go to the now playing screen, you can see first off it shows our name up there, the person who added the song up in the top left, and then also to the right of the song name, we have a new feature here, which is a reaction. So if we tap on that, we now get these iMessage-like icons where we can react to the song with emojis. So you have these pre-selected emojis, or you can tap on the plus right here and use any emoji that is on the iPhone. So if I wanted to maybe do a cookie, for example, as a reaction, I can add that as a reaction, and you can see there is a little animation here. So we're going to change that to a fire, and you can see the little animations there are pretty cool. And if we don't like the song, we'll just change that to a thumbs down. And sometimes it doesn't show the animation right away. You have to go out of it and then back into the song, and then it shows up right there. So you'll notice that when you go back to the actual playlist view as well, you will see that we have the emoji, the reactions on the right side of the song to the left of those three dots there. So this is pretty cool, and I think this is a really cool feature that kind of make it more interactive when you have multiple people in a playlist. And there's also been a change to the date in the Today view in the App Store. So now it shows December 15th in big bold letters to the right of today, and that looks like that is a server-side push. So that was first on 17.3, but now it looks like it's on 17.2 as well. So that's just a minor tweak in the App Store. And then I did also want to give a quick update on the stolen device protection feature. So I've noticed that this is kind of buggy here. Now it is the first beta, but I've noticed that if I want to turn off this feature, it doesn't pick up that I'm at home. So even though I have, the frequent locations turned on and I have this set as my home, it still does not detect it as being my home. So if you're having that issue right now, just know that you're not alone. Now this feature is still awesome. I'm still definitely going to have this enabled on my device, but I just wanted to point out that there are still some issues with it. Now I did also want to point out another new feature in iOS 17.2 that I did not discuss in my initial What's New video earlier this week. And that is a feature that I found out about from Jeff Benjamin over at 9to5Mac, and it's a new tone that plays continuously when liquid is detected in the USB-C port. So if you have liquid in the USB-C port and you try to charge it, obviously that's a big hazard. Your phone is going to alert you and detect that water by making a new sound that was not there previously to 17.2. And then also with 17.2, I know there's been a lot of mixed reactions about the journal application. I personally use this every single day. You're not seeing them here because I don't have it set to sync via iCloud on my main device because I wouldn't really be able to share that with you guys. It's too personal, but I use this app every day and I find the recommendations to be so good. Like if you go to start right here, and these recommendations really just give you something to write from. Like I'm not really good at writing from a blank slate, so these help tremendously, and I've noticed that they've gotten so much better over the beta stages, and now in the final they work really well and they really help you get your mind going on what to write about. And I just think that the journal app is going to be a lot bigger and more important than a lot of people kind of give it credit for right now. So let me know. I mean, am I the minority here? Do you use the journal app? Do you like it? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, as far as the performance goes, I did want to touch on the performance and battery life as well. So with iOS 17.2, I've noticed that performance is good, but surprisingly, for some reason, the first beta of iOS 17.3 is better. Like 17.2 is not bad by any means in terms of performance. I feel like it's the first actual stable iOS 17 release. It's kind of what iOS 17.1 or 17.1.2 should have been. So it's really stable for a 17.2 release, but 17.3 for some reason is more stable for me, even though it's a first beta. So that really has me questioning whether or not I should be telling you guys to hold off on the betas because they're not stable, because that's really not been my experience over the past really 2 years now. So I'm very impressed with the performance on 17.3 beta 1. Now, as far as battery life goes, I did want to touch on this as well. So, 17.2 battery life, let me go ahead and get on my main device here so I can tell you guys with the charts. So you see my last 24 hours here. You really can't tell much from the last 24 hours, but if we take a look at the last 10 days, you'll notice that my battery life is about on par with what I was seeing in 17.1. It's a little bit better, I think, than previous versions, but again, I'm very surprised by iOS 17.3 beta 1. This seems to be getting better battery life for me. Granted, I'm not using it on my main device, so it's kind of hard to tell, but just from the tests that I've always done for years now, it seems like battery life is better on 17.3 beta 1. So call me crazy. Let me know in the comments down below if you're running this on your main device and if you're getting better battery life than 17.2, but it seems crazy to me, but I think I'm getting better battery life on 17.3 beta 1 than on 17.2, the final release. So I'm not trying to jump the gun here, but I'm just saying battery life has been great for me really on both versions, but 17.3 beta 1 has surprised me. So now let's talk about what to expect next from Apple, because there's still a lot of people who are not in the know about what's coming next from Apple this time specifically, because this time of year is different from any other time of year with Apple. So if you're just jumping on the betas for the first time, just know that we're probably not going to see a 17.3 beta 2 until the week of January 8th. So my guess is we're going to see iOS 17.3 beta 2 on the week of January 8th, most likely right there on January 9th. And then for the final release of iOS 17.3, I think we could see that as early as the week of January 22nd, if not the 22nd itself. Now there is a possibility it gets pushed into the week of January 29th, but I don't think we're going to see 17.3 in February anymore. I think we're going to see it in late January. And of course, we could always see a 17.2.1 at some point in early to mid-January before that 17.3 release. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with an update on the big story from last week about Beeper Mini, aka iMessage on Android, because there's been a lot of developments over the past week. So if you're not familiar, this app is called Beeper Mini, and it just launched a couple weeks ago, and it uses a new type of reverse engineering to register Android phone numbers with Apple's iMessage servers. So quickly after the launch of this application, Apple shut it down, but the founders of the company were ready for it. They were prepared, and they found a new workaround every time Apple has shut them down, which has been like 5 times already, maybe even more that we don't know about. And although they were quiet at first, Apple has since released a statement as to, why they're taking down this service. And they said, "We took steps to protect our users by blocking techniques that exploit fake credentials in order to gain access to iMessage. These techniques pose significant risks to user security and privacy," which of course Beeper denies, even going as far to say that a third party can inspect their code to ensure that there are no security risks. But of course, Apple is not going to listen to that. They're not going to care. But anyways, the latest workaround for Beeper is less desirable because now you have to sign in with your Apple ID, and it also limits functionality to email-based messaging instead of using your phone number. So the Beeper team is still trying to get this to work, but it seems like more and more people are just kind of starting to drop off because they're realizing that this is not ever going to be consistent. They're getting email alerts from Apple saying that you've been signed in from an unrecognized location. There's just a lot of weird things, and it's just like, my point of view is if you want iMessage, get an iPhone. I know that's like the hot take right now for some odd reason. I don't know why that's the hot take, but that seems to be the hot take now because even Senator Elizabeth Warren chimed in and said green bubble texts are less secure. So why would Apple block a new app allowing Android users to chat with iPhone users on iMessage? Big tech executives are protecting profits by squashing competitors. Chatting between different platforms should be easy and secure. So I don't really think she has a great understanding of the situation because I don't think this is really squashing competitors. it's not, this service wasn't a competitor. Like, you know what I mean? It's basically aggregating all these chats into one platform. That's not a competitor. That's not what iMessage is. And also iMessage has been on the iPhone forever now, for over a decade. So it's not like it's some new, thing that Apple is doing and trying to crush competitors. It's an advantage. It's something that you buy the iPhone for, and that Apple spends hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars every single year. So like, why would they just allow anybody to use something that they're paying so much money for? I don't know. That's just my opinion. And of course, I could be wrong on this. I could be not seeing it from an objective point of view, but I've tried to be as objective as possible with this. And I just really can't understand why people are so against Apple shutting this down. I don't know. I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think that iMessage should be open for everybody because it's so secure and everything? Or do you think it should stay Apple and iPhone only? Okay, so now let's talk about something that I think we can all agree on is a bad idea, and that is GM ditching CarPlay. And we heard about this earlier this year. I reported on this, but now we have more details as to why they're actually doing this. According to GM's head of product for infotainment, he said CarPlay and Android Auto have stability issues that manifest themselves as bad connections, poor rendering, slow responses, and dropped connections. And when CarPlay and Android Auto have issues, drivers pick up their phones again, taking their eyes off the road and totally defeating the purpose of these phone mirroring programs. I don't think I've ever personally had any of those issues, but nonetheless, he said that GM's replacement for CarPlay will have Google integration with Google Maps and Google Assistant for voice commands. It's also going to give GM more control over driver data and allow them to offer subscription services. And GM did also reach out to MacRumors to clarify the switch by saying GM's embedded infotainment strategy is driven by the benefits of having a system that allows for greater integration with a larger GM ecosystem and vehicles. So basically they're saying that the whole distraction thing was kind of overstated, and that's not really the main reason they're doing this. It's more so to have more control over your data and offer you subscription services. Again, I think we all think it's a bad idea, but who knows? GM could come out and surprise us. So last week we talked about the new 12.9-inch iPad Air that's coming next year. This is the first time we're going to see a 12.9-inch on anything besides the Pro, the iPad Pro, and now we have more details on when to expect that, or at least when it started shipping, because according to Ross Young, the displays for the 12.9-inch iPad Air have already begun shipping this month. So that means that a spring launch is pretty much all but confirmed at this point. So we should be seeing those in the first half of 2024. But now let's look a little bit further ahead to 2025 and 2026, because the iPhone 17 Pro is apparently going to have an Apple-designed Wi-Fi 7 chip. And this news comes from supply chain analyst Jeff Poo, who said that the chip could be a long-term threat to Broadcom, which currently supplies Apple with a combined Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip for iPhones. And he believes that Apple will expand on its in-house Wi-Fi chip to the entire iPhone 18 series in 2026. So it doesn't clarify if we're going to see a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip, like if it's going to be combined into one chip, but at least we can expect better Wi-Fi on the iPhone 17 Pro, and then of course for all iPhone 18 models later down the road in 2026. And speaking of 2026, TrendForce just reported that the 2026 Apple Watch Ultra is not only going to have a bigger display, but it's also going to switch from OLED to micro LED. They're expecting the size of the screen to increase from 1.93 inches to 2.12 inches, and the micro LED display is estimated to cost 2 to 3 times more than the current OLED displays. So expect a bigger, better, and of course, more expensive Apple Watch Ultra in the next couple of years. And it's worth noting that we really haven't heard anything about a new Apple Watch Ultra. I know it's early, but we haven't heard anything about an Apple Watch Ultra 3 coming in 2024. So we might be looking at a little bit of an expanded gap between the second generation and the third generation. So this one that we're talking about here could be the 4th gen Apple Watch Ultra, but of course, we'll have to wait and see. And then finally, just as tradition, let's talk about another crazy AirTag story, and this one is pretty messed up. But this time, a man in Australia who was separated from his wife but still shared custody of the kids was doing a routine handover of the children. And according to this report, that's when the ex-wife observed the man put the kids' backpacks in the trunk of her car. And then later that night, she got a notification on her phone that said an unknown AirTag was nearby. And sure enough, she searched the car and located an AirTag in the back seat near the spare tire. But that wasn't all, because the next day, the woman noticed noticed a weird beeping sound and recalled that the ex had also gifted the 2 young children soft play bunnies and told her that the bunnies were to be hand washed if they got dirty. Well, she picked up a bunny and felt a hard round object inside of the bunny. So the man literally stitched AirTags inside of both of these toy bunnies. And she confirmed this by taking them to the police station where they unstitched the bunnies and found that the AirTags were all registered to the ex-husband. And his response? Well, he said that the AirTags were to locate the toys if the children lost them. Of course he did. But the judge did not buy that and saw it as a breach of privacy, leading the man to be charged with violating a restraining order and was sentenced to 40 hours community service and agreed to a 12-month good behavior bond. Ah, man, people are crazy. I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard about somebody stitching an AirTag to the inside of a toy that they give to their children who they're sharing custody with. That's scary. But it's only scary because she already had a restraining order against him and he did this anyways to try to track her whereabouts. If you weren't following along and didn't connect the dots, that's why. And that's why it was a big breach of privacy, because he was trying to track her no matter where she went. So the lessons here are: 1, people are crazy, especially when love is or was involved in any way. And number 2, that AirTags tracking can always be spotted with those notifications on your iPhone. If you get an unknown AirTag nearby notification, take it seriously and search everywhere. I've been saying this for years, but I'm going to continue saying it because you just never know. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Apple Weekly. If you did, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe down below if you don't want to miss next week's episode. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.